Welcome back to a very sunny Mexico, because today we're jumping backstage not to vote for a car, but rather to look at one. And hopefully not confuse it with its 1970s counterpart. Because today we're taking a look at the 2017 Alpine A110. From stock, this thing boasts 248 brake horsepower, 236 foot-pounds of torque, while weighing a whopping 2,432 pounds. I've got to say, it's kind of an interesting shape of vehicle, because it reminds me a lot of the funky little computer mice from the early 2000s, but it also does look pretty cool as well all ways around. Going to the inside, you've got a screen in the middle, you've got a few gauges up front, and that's pretty much about it. It's kind of more built to be a driver's car, so let's go ahead and take a listen to this thing. So there we go, it looks good and sounds good. Let's jump to the upgrades and see if they're good, because we're starting off with conversion and engine swaps. What do we have for this thing? We have ourselves only one, and it's a 1.6 litre inline-4 turbo rally. This thing also does start out rear-wheel drive, but you do have the option to swap it to all-wheel, which we are definitely going to do a bit later on. Going over to aero and appearance, this is where things get fun, because we have the option to, well, we can just put on two portable suns onto the front bumper apparently, or we can go ahead and have the average Forza aero. Going to the back, we have ourselves just one option, and it is of course everybody's favourite little Forza wing right there. Going to the sides, we have another option, at this time to go ahead and put on some rear mud flaps. And then we get to the bonnet, where we can go ahead and not change anything with the bonnet, but rather we can put a little bit of kind of like a little roof scoop all the way up here. I know what you're thinking, why call it a bonnet upgrade if it doesn't affect the bonnet? I don't know. Now at this point I'd usually showcase one of Mac's builds, but unfortunately we don't have one of those for this week. Instead we've got a tune made by somebody from the community. This is John E's tune for A-Class Road Rear Wheel Drive. There's a share code, feel free to go ahead and grab that for yourself. We're going to go ahead, download and install and see what we've got to work with. So these upgrades are now sat at just under 2,100 pounds in weight, with nearly a 325 brake horsepower all the way up at the top of A-Class. So with those upgrades applied, here and now at the paint shop, we're going to go ahead, take a look at advanced. Sadly there is of course nothing there, but going over to manufacturer colours, we've got three to choose from. We've got a blue, we've got a black, and we've got a silver grey, which does actually look quite nice on this thing. Now usually, as most cars in this series, I go, I'd love to see one of those, I'd love to see one of these. Well, with the Alpine A110, that actually did happen. It was a very fleeting glance of it, because it raced past me at, well, I don't know how many million miles an hour, but it did it did look pretty cool, and it also did sound pretty cool as well. So at least I can say I've seen one of these in person, and they are definitely a very nice car to look at. And now let's go ahead and see, is it as good a car to race with as it is to look at? Well, there's only one way to find out. We're starting in 8th at the moment. We've got an aim to finish in 1st place. Of course, we are running John's road tune for this thing, so let's go ahead and see how it performs into the first corner. We've outturned an 8.6, and we've even outturned a couple other cars as well, and that's taken us all the way up into 5th, make that 4th. I can't lie, I'm quite surprised, and I'm very happy at the same time. Excuse me, coming through. Right, on the brakes we go. Let's try and not clonk the wall. Oh dear, we've clonked a Subi instead. Was it a Toyota? Now they're the same car anyway. Now I've done a little bit more research into the Alpine A110 for all the stats and figure work, and I've got to say it's very interesting indeed, because apparently for this specific generation right here, the kind of reboot so to speak, apparently 25,000 of these have been made as of March 2025. For context, by the way, it is currently September 2025, and I'm sure those numbers have gone up by now. However, if you wanted to buy one of these things in the UK, then you better have some deep pockets, because they range from anywhere between 40 to 103,000 pounds sterling, which is this in US dollar, by the way. Basically, that's a whole lot of money for a very little car, but I've got to say, it does look pretty good. But does it warrant spending 103,000? You let me know. And of course, if you don't want to spend that money, then you can always get one for free on the Backstage in this game. In the meantime, at 95% through the race, one more turn to go. The finish line is just there, and across we go, with a massive gap between us and literally everybody else. So of course, a natural 1st place and a time of 2 minutes 9. Well, I've got to say that was a very good race indeed, and that little Alpine A110 for A-Class is surprisingly fast. But now let's go ahead and actually jump back to the Backstage voting this time around to go ahead and see what we have this week. And it's very interesting indeed, and I think we all know exactly what I'm going to say before I've said it. But to our right, we've got the Toyota Camry from 2023 and the Volkswagen Doka from 66 versus the 2022 Subaru WRX and the Subaru Brat. It's an all Subi choice over this side. It's me. It's got to be done. For me, that was the easiest Backstage vote yet. But do you agree? Go ahead and let me know in the comments section below this video. Now, of course, we don't have a Mac tune either for the drag racing, and I don't know really how to build them properly, so we're going to go ahead and grab this one from user not Ironman14. So let's go ahead and bring up the share code. There it is. Feel free to go ahead and grab that for yourself. We're going to go ahead, download and install, and see what's going to happen. So with these upgrades, we're now a little bit heavier at 2,141 pounds, making just under 670 brake horsepower, about midway through S1. Right here and now over at the back of the festival, so let's go ahead and see it. Does this have a little bit of a wheelie check to it? The answer is definitely not. Mac, we are going to need your tuning skills back for the next one. In the meantime though, here we are over at the edge of the drag strip. Let's go ahead and get ourselves onto launch control, and away we go with this thing. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. Just under 670 brake horsepower. This thing is of course 2,141 pounds in weight. Let's go ahead and see what speed we get through the camera. Hopefully it's a good one. 177.23, not great, not too fast, which is a bit of a shame. And off the end of the drag strip at 197. And as always, oh dear, different tune, still no brakes. However though, now it's our turn to go ahead and have a bit of fun, so we're going to jump straight to conversion. We're going to go over to all-wheel drive. I think I'm going to leave the stock engine in and see what power we make, but we are of course going to go for as much of a top speed build as we possibly can. And of course, if you don't make too much power from this one, there is always the option to go ahead and swap in the little turbo, I think it was inline 6, inline 4. You know which one I mean. Yeah, this was the engine I meant. Now while we're at it, let's go ahead and throw on some decent tyres. We'll go ahead and make them 235s at the front, and what do we have for the back? We have ourselves 265s. Alright, I can make that work. Or at the very least, I hope I can. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Although now I've got the fun job of trying to tune 670 brake horsepower into 6 gears. In the meantime, here is this week's Forza shop, where we have ourselves a Porsche Macan Rally Raid, we have a Backstage Pass, the Germany T, a Mercedes-Benz Tank Pool Racing Truck, the referee whistle car horn, which sounds a bit like this. And we also have ourselves the Horizon Super Wheelspin alongside the regular Horizon Wheelspin as well. And now out to the motorway we go. And now it's time to play everybody's favourite game of how close can we get to the motorway grade. I've gone and selected a random area of the highway. Let's go ahead and see if we've actually gotten close. And have we done it today? Well, the answer sadly is still no. We'll get there one of these days, I'm sure. In the meantime though, here we are at the edge of the motorway. Let's go ahead, get ourselves onto launch control, and away we go. 670 brake horsepower, which really isn't much, and honestly I'm quite surprised by that. But let's go ahead and see what we can do with this thing being as light as it is. Hopefully we might still get a good top speed, and hopefully I can go ahead and take this thing drifting after. There's a lot of hopefullys, because with this car I really don't know. Either way, out of the speed zone at 222.57, we still have the downhill to go, and of course the speed camera as well. But if you want to see a video on this thing's 1970s counterpart, please do go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I'll try my best to get around to making a video on it. Right, the camera should be up here somewhere hopefully, and there it is, 230.66. Let's go ahead and see what we can get downhill. 234, 235. Do we get any more than that? Do we do 236? But I think that is going to be this thing's limit. So let's go ahead, find the sign, and on the brakes we go. Do we get a good stopping distance out of this thing? There's only one way to find out, and that is of course to slam on the brakes. And to be honest, looking at it, I think we've gotten ourselves a pretty decent braking distance, of which for this thing I'm actually quite surprised by, I can't lie. Anyway, we've now got one more test to go, and of course we know exactly what's about to happen. If you said drifting, you're exactly right. So let's go ahead, throw this thing into our favourite little drift zone, all-wheel drive, a lot of power for drifting at the very least. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. We can bounce off the side of the wall, but do we get a decent score? We get 35,573, which to be honest is more than I thought we'd get. So 35,500 points to go. Can we beat that? Let's go ahead and see what we can do. We're going to go ahead, chuck us in here like we always do, try and keep it a little more sideways, and now the other side at 33,570. So close, but not quite there. In the meantime though, that is this video on the Alpine A110 from 2017. Again, not to be confused with the 1970s Alpine A110. These are two very different cars indeed. If you want one of these, you can go ahead and pick it up via the Horizon Backstage for absolutely nothing, which is absolutely fantastic. And as it turns out, if you want a little French Alpine for racing, then this thing's actually surprisingly good in A-class. For everything else, well, maybe not so much. In the meantime though, thank you very much for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that cool stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Tech out. See ya. I'm sure this was in Horizon 4.